recording. Okay, the recording should be up and live. And then we're gonna make a couple announcements and then I'll continue with the course material. So we are kind of like in the, I would say probably midway of the semester. Right now we are kind of introducing you guys different tools here and there. Most of these tools are focusing on AI, Gen AI. Some of them are related to agentic AI. We're gonna get there, and then hopefully my plan is by probably I would say first week or second week of November, we should be able to finishing up all these tools. So that all these tools are at the tip of your finger, and then when you guys are building that final project, you guys can quickly grab the tools to do what you need to do. So let me pull up the GitHub repo, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so let me start from scratch. Okay, so this is the GitHub repo, and then when we talk about tools, I'm referring to specifically this Gradio folder. And then let me just give a quick recap on what's happening so far, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, so what's happening so far from the beginning of the semester is we're kind of going in that order to introducing tools. Okay, what are these tools? Tools are referring to, for example, if you want to classify image, right? Cats versus dog, okay? What is the model going behind the scene? So for example, what is the model going behind the scene? And what is how is the model called, right? How do you set up a schema? How is the picture processed, right? So that's image classification. And then we talk about language, right? If your data is language, then what does that look like, right? How do you generate tokens? And then what does it mean when you load up a tokenizer, right? That sort of thing. So that's in text generation. And then we sort of like go a little bit above and beyond, and then we have like two branch from there. One branch is, okay, what happens when you do visual question answer? So what that means is your input is no longer just a sentence, there's also a picture. So then we're talking about, okay, how do you combine what we've learned with image classification and text generation into one single API call, and then that becomes VQA. So the other branch is obviously voice, right? We have a separate repository on voice. So it's not here, but there's a link somewhere here on voice. And then we talked about, last session, we talked about, okay, what does it mean when you are building an app with voice feature? Like, what does it mean when you start talking to it? What does it mean when the mic starts turn on? And why does the mic start turn on? Why does the mic start turn on recording? And why is the recording trigger, right? We talk about all those things. And then some of the things are not perfect. Some things are still up in the air, still being developed. And then obviously leading companies 21 labs, right, in that arena. So today's session, the plan is to move towards this thing here called Web Development Assistant. Now, let me give a little high-level context on web development. So here I call it web development because this is kind of like a Python notebook, and then there isn't really a good way to call it, so I kind of call it that. And then this just kind of like based on these three words, kind of sound like, hey, it's like writing a website for you, right? Yes, that is true. But hopefully, before today's class finish, you guys can kind of get an understanding of, okay, now that can actually become a tool, and then there's like some high-level planning going on behind the scene that can make the web development part of thinking process for humans, right? Coming in. So, is there something wrong with this? So that's kind of like where we are right now. And then this hopefully the plan is to finish all these the first week or second week of November. Probably first week of November, we can probably finish all of this. And then we're gonna move on to model fine-tuning, which is which I think I mentioned before, right? We have this thing called RunPod RunPod is the platform. It gives you all the GPUs, and then we can add students on there, and then you can test out the distributed training. So what that means is you have multiple GPUs, and then you can like fine tune a model using multiple GPUs all together at the same time. Okay, so any questions about the plan?
About RunPod, so it wasn't invite only, right?
Yes, so I'm in conversation with RunPod folks to set up kind of like a credit limit. And then once I figure out how to do that, I'm gonna start adding people because I only have $400 credit. And then some of these GPUs are expensive. Like if you go to I can show you a request real fast. What do I mean by that? This one is my own, and then you don't have to. The key point is these guys here. So let's say what's a good example? Uh, Let me pick expensive one. So this is kind of like a expensive one, and what I mean by that is let's say you select 4, right? So that's like already $14 per hour. And then $14 per hour is if you press the button and you turn things on, that's $14 per hour start counting, right? That doesn't guarantee, like what if you need a first hour just to install all the packages? And then you need another hour to like set up like all the images and all that stuff, and you make sure Docker image runs correctly with your DeepSpeed package, right? Like the first hour could go really fast. So I kind of want to just make sure I'm giving you guys like a template that you guys can just press a button and just run, and then you guys immediately get like a whole experience. So I'm in progress creating that, and I also kind of want to cap the training within like probably less than an hour. So, like no one jumps in and hog the service for like 10 hours and blow things up. So I'm in progress creating that setup, that configuration. But to answer your question, yes, that's upcoming. And then I'll have to just add you guys. And then I think it also kind of depends on the final project of each student. So that's another thing I want everyone to have some time to think about. Not every student want to fine tune using multiple GPU. So I'm gonna make this optional. But you guys are gonna get a source code one way or the other, disregard what your final project is. So you're gonna get the learning anyway. So don't worry about that. I just don't want to make this a requirement for everyone because it's kind of like it is hard to figure all this out. Yeah, does that kind of answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we'll leave that there. I'm gonna close this. Okay, and then let me see. Yeah, okay, so that's a roadmap. And then in terms of fine-tuning with RunPod, I have a repo here called oops. Hey, come on in. So I have a repo here called DeepSpeed course, and there are a bunch of tutorials here. I will say the easiest one is probably the first one, because it's just a plain neural network, nothing special there. And then you use NumPy to create some randomized data, and then you can like kind of get a holistic experience of creating data, load the data, build your neural network model, train it, and then generate a result all in one go, all in one script. So this thing's here. Obviously, it's a public repo, so everyone get access. And then you can feel free to go down the list. I would say in terms of, let me make sure everyone's on Zoom. Okay, everyone's on Zoom. I would say in terms of industry practice, the most common one in terms of today's day and age, is probably, I would say these 3 is probably the most common one. So TRL, that stands for Transformer Reinforcement Learning. GRPO, that's one type of reinforcement learning. And then obviously, OpenAI GPT open source, that's another one that you can use. Models on Hugging Face, download the artifacts, and download, load up your data, you can start training it. And this repo walks through what that process is. In terms of cost, I can tell you right now that the cost kind of increase if you go down this direction. So that's obviously cheapest. That's obviously the most expensive one. If you go down there, it probably is the even more expensive one. Just so you guys know. So that's kind of like you can probably call that plan for the second half of the semester. Obviously, we probably won't have time to cover all of it, but hopefully we can cover most of these contents. And then that will probably take you from November to December. And then we'll talk about project deliverable. I think last session I mentioned a little bit about project deliverable, right? Like here's how you write a paper, and here's how you submit a paper, blah blah blah. How to create a PDF, things like that. So that's the overall plan. Any questions? Good. Okay. Great. I can close that. Awesome. And then today we have a visitor, Krishna. Do you want to say a few words? You can. So Krishna is here to observe the class. Obviously, everyone be nice to him. Right? Okay. So Krishna, if there's anything you need, just let me know. Yeah. Great. Okay. So I think with that being said, now let me show you guys this thing here called. Have anyone heard of this thing called Replit? You heard of it? You heard of it? Anyone else? You have heard? Okay. So a few students heard of it. Let me show you what that is. So this is the website for Replit. And then let me just show you what the thing is first. So Replit, what is Replit? This is a good picture. Let's take a look at this picture. So Replit, what exactly is it? Well, first of all, it's a chatbot, right? It's a chatbot. You talk to it using natural language, English, other language, so on and so forth. And then it does something for you, right? Builds an app or whatever, right? Builds a video game or something like that. And then you can also deploy it, right? So come on. So you can also deploy it. And then the ability to deploy it, it's obviously very desirable for users. Because think about it, you ask ChatGPT, hey, here's my idea. Can you build a website for me? ChatGPT give you the code. And then you have to take the code, download it, and then deploy somewhere else, right? So that process of taking code from one place and get it to another place and then deploy, make sure it's running properly, that obviously takes time and skills, right? So for users that have great ideas, but they don't really want to spend a budget of hiring like 5 engineers to pull that off, that's where Replit comes in, right? Because it basically builds app for you, deploys it, actually has a database behind the scene, can also help you deploy it along with the app, and then you can kind of like build upon that. So it's actually very simple to use. So I have one here open. I can probably just create one like this. And then you can probably say, well, how about this? Instead of me making things up, I'm gonna use your example. But I'm not gonna steal your steal your idea. I'm gonna use football as like the American football. So I want to build an app that recruits a football player from high school. It needs to be able to allow high school coaches to upload data for a football player from high school. And the other side of platform needs to allow recruiters from a football team from different leagues to search for a football player. It allows users to let's say I'm gonna make it a little bit more interesting. I'm gonna generate it first, and then I'm gonna make it a bit more interesting by making the search tailored towards kind of like a chatbot. But I kind of just want you guys to observe what's going on here. And then this session and next session, hopefully I can teach you guys how this works behind the scene. And we're gonna build something that's very similar to this, right? So that's the goal. And then right now, this is running, right? Oh, it's working. Okay. So right now, just kind of like look at this for a little bit. Anyone know what this is doing right now? Just kind of by observing this. I mean, obviously this is running at the time, but like, what do you guys think this is doing? Raise your hand if you want to take a guess. Any guess? Creating user interface. That's a good guess. But what does it need to do before that? Yes, think and reason. That's a great answer. So now it says something like this. Let's just take it slow. So I enter this, right? It's my prompt, right? I have a great idea. I want to build this, whatever, right? That's what the app is. I want to build that. People can do some searches, right? Now it says, I'll help you build a football player recruitment platform that connects high school coaches with recruiters from various leagues. Let me search for any relevant integration that might be useful for this application. Let's take a pause. What do you think is happening here? Let's be a little bit technical. What API is needed to finish the sentence? Sorry? Natural language processing, yes, but what else? There's a very important information here. What else? There's a very important API here that it needs to call. And the answer is actually in the sentence. Search, yes. Anybody got that? So what does the search mean here? How do you do the search? Huh? Yes, yes, that's exactly the answer. So the search here means there's immediately before you come up with a plan, right? There's one API call you need to make. The API call is a query, it's a search, right? Internet search. But what exactly are you searching for? Right? You need to have an LLM read that and then try to come up with a plan. But before you come up with a plan, you need to convert that into a list of query that it's related to the data that can support what the user wants. Make sense? And that is the internet search that this paragraph here needs to do before it can continue. Make sense? Okay, so make sure you memorize that, right? Just in your head. Before you come up with a plan, you need to search something. And how do you search something? You need a query, right? You need internet search, right? Okay, so let's continue. Search Replit's integration for file upload storage, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's drop that. Search for file storage for 5 rounds, found 5 results. Okay, let's take a pause. What's happening here? This sentence here, what's happening here? There's a specific algorithm that is running. It starts with an R. What's that? What? No, not reinforcement learning.
RAG.
Yes, RAG. Thank you. So what's a giveaway, right? File storage is a giveaway. So file storage means database, right? Replit has a nice database. The nice database says, oh, here's a bunch of documents, and the bunch of documents says, okay, here's instructions to do something. In this case, create a website or whatever, right? Or whatever it's going to tell us in the end. And to do that, so what's happening here is RAG, retrieval augmented generation. What that means is it takes this query from what the user says, and then it searches its database to see what are the tools that it needs to do to pull that off. Make sense? So that's second API call, right? Second API call. Okay, let's continue. Now let me create a comprehensive plan. So like in the beginning, you at least make 2 API calls before you even get to the plan. But the plan hasn't happened yet. Right? You don't know what the plan is, right? So the thinking process is quite long here, right? Okay, so now let me create a comprehensive plan for your football recruitment platform, okay? Type, it's an app, okay? The dual-sided football recruitment platform connecting high school coaches uploading player data with recruiters. Okay, fine. And then I'll include the following features. Okay, so this you can probably just kind of skim through because these things can all be customized, downstream in the development process, right? Whether you use AI to help you or not, these are just features on the website. Okay. So and then it asks you, okay, do you want to change a plan or do you want to continue? And these are two options for you to continue, right? And obviously there's a cheap one and there's an expensive one, right? So what we're going to do is this, and then we might have to see what it's doing. Hopefully design like some sort of like nice-ish looking website. And then after that, you can like publish by clicking on this button, and it will actually give you like a live URL that you can share with your friends or share with other people, and they can like actually implement it. Okay, so at the moment, this is obviously trying to write a website for us, right? That's what it's doing. Anyone can take a guess what tools you need to write a website. Just any guess. What does it take to write a website? HTML. Anything else? CSS. Anything else? JavaScript. Okay, good. Anything else?
.NET maybe.
Angular. Python, that's a good call. We're going to come back to that. What else? TypeScript, great. So those are good answers that goes behind a website building. And then there's one important thing that you guys haven't mentioned, but it's in here. It's the database. Wait, am I blind? I thought I saw it. Yeah, this one, file upload storage, right? So this means user can upload something and then it's saved somewhere, right? So database. What's the best database that you can think of? How do you build a database? MySQL, yes. Anything else? MongoDB, yes. Postgre, yes. Yes. Okay, so those things can all be built in here in the container, right? Here's a trick question, right? Here's a trick question. What happens if I take the code and I just copy paste the code somewhere else and I deploy an app in that environment? What happens to the database? It gets what? It gets deleted. Yeah, that's exactly correct answer, right? So whatever's writing here builds a database. Whatever the database is doing is saving the information. It's only on this instance. Make sense? And then I'll show you what the code look like. But after that, if I take it and go somewhere else, that data is gone, right? Just whatever I click on here, the data is gone, right? Unless you save it. So okay, so let's see if this is close to what I'm envisioning. Now, me as a user, I was not being very clear, right? From this to this, technically speaking, it's a great leap, right? Like it's making up a lot of stuff here, right? So that's what's happening. So let's just see. Let's just click around. Does that let's see. Do now create? Oh, sorry, it's not even done yet. That's why I can't click on this. Let's see. Okay, so it's still creating those things. I just don't think it's done yet. Let me show you if there's a place where you have code. Hang on. Yeah, I'm trying to find the tools. Do you see it, or am I blind somehow? This one?
Yes.
I'm trying to find is it developer preview? This one? Usually it's on the left-hand side. For some reason, maybe it's just still creating. But anyhow, once it finishes, we can probably click around. Yeah, so point being, while this app is being created, So there's a code that goes into front end, there's code that supports the back end. And then when you unload the zip file from this app and you deploy somewhere else, the database need to be re-engineered in a way that it memorizes everything before. Make sense? So that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we'll let that load, and then now let me show you guys like the baby version, and then let me show you guys like a smarter version, and hopefully we'll get to that today. And then hopefully you guys know how to build something like this. Obviously, you know, I'm not saying everyone has to compete with Replit. I think it's very difficult to compete with Replit. But hopefully, end of today's session, you at least get a little taste of how to build Replit servers like that. Okay, I think it's happening, but we'll let it run. I think it's still working, so we'll let it run. Okay, let me take you to Gradio app. Okay, what we're gonna do is this. We're gonna do this, I don't know why I keep doing that. We're gonna do this in an incremental step. First thing we're gonna do is just as simple as a web development assistant, just like a web assistant, that's it. Because you need to know how to do that, and then you need to, and then that capability itself becomes a tool of part of a bigger thing. So let's talk about this a little bit. And typically, the way I do this is I start with system diagram. Because without a system diagram, people are just gonna get lost very fast. I'm gonna hide this. Why is none's button working? That's annoying. I'm gonna, can I do this? Okay, there we go. Is it good? Can anyone see this? Okay, so how do you build a web assistant? Let's start step by step. First of all, user. User is on the Gradio interface. Gradio is a package that essentially is a Python native that developed the front end. So once the user is on Gradio interface, assuming that you have a description of your website, you have your API key, all that stuff configured correctly, choose your model, things like that. Now you're on the Gradio interface. And then the first thing behind the scene of what the app is going to do is check your API key, right? API key manager. So that's kind of like a just small trivial engineering detail that you have to do, but it's kind of like the boring stuff. But I have to mention it here just so everyone's know. The next thing is you have to process a request. So what that means is you take the user input and then you prepare the request before you send to the API, before you send to the API call. So here, I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit. So here is when things get a little bit interesting. So user input come into the request process, and the request process is going to take the user's current prompt along with all of the historical prompt, put them together, obviously with a little bit of formatting, but basically you put them together, and then you send all that into the cloud. Cloud is a choose of LLM that you can use, but you can use OpenAI, you can use other things like Cohere or Meta or whatever you prefer. And then the LLM here, in this case, is Anthropic Claude, is going to generate the artifact that supports the website, whatever it is, right? Everyone already said the answer: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It can be other framework as well, React, Angular, that sort of thing. So these scripts now becomes code and then comes back to the processor. The processor then needs to clean up and generate these artifacts before it gets rendered as a website. So what do I mean by that is you're gonna have to be aware of when large language model is generating the response, it has all these weird things. Like for example, .HTML blocks inside to tell user that this chunk of text is now HTML. It's no longer natural language, such as English. So that needs to be reprocessed and cleaned up, and that's what this request processor is doing, So request processor clean that up, and then it hands that finalized scripts to the code cleaner. And then after the code cleaner cleans, prepares into the HTML, because in this case, you could have multiple scripts, right? And then the code cleaner, his job is to make sure that these scripts are all clean and then can be rendered. So once the code cleaner finishes that job, you can then goes into this kind of a loop. So what this loop, it looks kind of complicated, but basically what this loop is doing is it shows the code in editor tab, and then the editor tab can then be prepared to generate the website for you. And then the website can then be wrapped into this thing called the iframe object. It's kind of like a sandbox object in HTML to help you render another HTML. So that's what that object is. And then when you return back, you can then return back like a nice looking website within another user interface. Does that make sense? And then you can kind of design this in a loop in a way that it's kind of like isolated containment that does not affect the rest of your user interface. So that's what this container is doing. And then once you're done with that, that's the preview. And then you can save it if you want to. That's a historical that's what the history manager is doing. Typically in a chatbot environment, especially if you want to go into production, you always have to have some sort of history manager. Here, in the classroom setting, I just use history manager, loosely speaking. But the terminology in industry is called tracing and observability. And you kind of have to have tracing and observability before your LLM chatbot can go into production. So this history manager, like this hammer here, it's kind of like a placeholder, just so you know that's a thing to do, even though you don't have to do it right now, but just so you know that's a thing to do. Once that's there, and then you display the results back to the user. In the beginning, that's the user. And then you continue from there. And user can do a couple of things. They can download the button, click a button, download the code, and then user can take it from there if they choose, if that's what they want to do, right? Or user can then say, okay, I don't like the font size, or I want the this website button to be like this color or whatever. If that's what they want to do, that's perfectly fine. They can modify the content, right? And if you modify content, that kicks off another channel to repeat this whole process. Make sense? So I would say if you understand all of this steps in between, you kind of understood what it takes to put together like a web development assistant. Any questions? Good. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. Now let me show you the code, and then we can probably run it. I'll have to install OpenAI, and then I can let's see. Okay, we'll give a second to do that. And then I have this code here. Let me make this bigger, and then we can probably briefly talk through this. There's only a few things that you need to be aware. The most important thing is probably this one. This is the system prompt that goes into the LLM. And this system prompt dictates the behavior of LLM to be a web developer, right? It's not like this. It's not like this chatbot down here. Its only job is to create website, because it comes from a foundation model, and foundation model is because it's trained on pretty much all data that's available. So I have the system prompt kind of like dictates what the code may look like coming out of that chatbot, right? And then here I kind of coined the tools to be HTML, CSS, right? If you want other framework, then obviously you can say it here, and then it will create other frameworks. So that's that, and then I can just run this code. That's probably the most important one, because everything else, it's just Python code. Okay, let me see if this works correctly. Oh, my bad. I have to install this. Okay, great. Now I can run this. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up. Great, that's what it looked like. And then I'm gonna enter my API key. So I have it here. I'm just gonna grab it here. And then I'm gonna put it here. Great. And the model, just choose whatever model you like. In this case, I'll just choose Cloud Opus 4. And then here, I'm gonna say something simple, right? Build a hello world web app for me. Just say something simple. And then let's see what it's gonna do. So at the moment, there's no thinking process, right? I say something, it's gonna assume I'm building a website. It's going to take what I said as a face value, right? No thinking, no reasoning, no search, right? And then it's just gonna start writing code, right? So that's what's happening. And then you can check out the live view, and then that's kind of what it looks like. And it could be ugly, and then as you can see here, this is technically speaking not HTML code, but somehow it gets parsed in there, right? So those are little things that you need to think about when you're designing this in production. And then maybe you have this. Let me show you guys a different example. See, so this one. Same thing here. This thing I click on is says create a responsive portfolio website for a photographer, and then it's going to take what I said as a face value, and then go through this whole thing, write the HTML code, and then it's going to render it in the live preview. And then we're going to give a sec to see what it writes. But all that things is being saved in the history. So this is what the website look like right there. I'd be interested to see where it gets the data because these are actual real pictures. Let's see. So this is interesting. I actually did not know this because this is a live demo. It grabbed this data from whatever this website is, right? Pick some photos, whatever. So I can tell you guys this. In industry, this will probably be a problem because you don't know where the data is coming from. And it's kind of like randomly generated by LLM without me saying anything, me here as a user, right? So that's going to be something that the guardrail team is going to have to put down, basically. The guardrail team has some sort of checker that goes into that URL that says, okay, based on whatever XYZ risk factors that we can put together, this is safe. Then you can go ahead and move forward with this. If the guardrail team comes back and say, this is not safe, then crap, too bad. Then you can't use this. So that's something caveat, kind of like an edge case, I would say you need to watch out for. That's a live preview of what the website look like. And then the thing should be here in the chat history. Any questions? Okay, so let me show you guys one more thing, and then I want to kind of kick off the conversation of how do you move forward from here. Let me show you this one. And this one has one small feature here called the File Explorer. File Explorer is kind of related to the database thing that we're talking about, right? Because sometimes user could be in the middle of developing the same solution iteratively, right? And then if you just keep updating different scripts, somewhere down the road, you're just going to get lost, right? So that's what this File Explorer comes in, because it helps you to kind of like navigate which version of scripts that you're doing. So let me run that, and then let me show you guys what that looks like. Click on that. Let me get my API key in there. Give me 1 sec. Great. And I'll just say build a landing page for my coffee shop. Okay. So we'll let this load. But once this is done, obviously you see the same thing that we talked about before. You see generated code, you see live preview, they're here, and then it tracks the chat history, right? The new feature that's being developed here, the new feature being developed here is called File Explorer. File Explorer is referring to these things down here, right? So it has this box here that can allow you to save the current version. And it also has Explorer to kind of load up what you have been saved previously so that you can kind of like iterate on it. So this is going to take a while. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's quite long. Let's see. Okay. Are these links live? Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, that's why it takes so long, because all these links. Okay, great. So then you can then keep updating what this page look like. But let's say you have a good stopping point, you hit save current, and you'll be safe here, right? And then if you want to load it up, you can check on this and then load up your previous version that you previously saved. Make sense? So this kind of all of this is just to make the user experience a little bit easier to handle when you're kind of like developing those features from time to time. Make sense? Okay. Can anyone guess what is the problem here? I just showed you a couple of things. What's the problem? What could go wrong here? Any guess? Anything? Just think about, like, let me do a recap. So what happened was I put my API key in here, I select model, I put some sentences there saying I want to build this, right? And then I wait a little bit, and this is here. I can click on the buttons, whatever, and I can save this here. And then the code is here. I can download it, and I can preview it. I can check the history, right? So all these things are here. What's wrong here? There's something that's really, really, really wrong. Memory is a good call because these things are saved locally in this environment in here, generate websites. It's saved locally here, so that's a good call. But I'm actually looking for another answer. Like, what could go wrong here? Button is a good call, but what about a button? Can you explain?
Opening a new page is opening a single page.
Instead of opening a new page, is opening a single page. Are you referring to the page in the app?
But that can be like after saving, you can directly open it.
Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of like a, yeah, I wouldn't call that a big problem. That's kind of like a matter of choice.
If I want to change the code that I want to write it it's just generate a random app with adding some features. What if I want to change the code, adding another prompt in the ChatGPT, like modify my code into something? I don't have the access to like code change to something, a new app has these features.
So you're saying you want to change the code within the,
Editing that available code, uneditable.
like the edit ability in the within the script? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what.
I don't know how well it does, because this is just because the system prompt is kind of generic, right? This is my system prompt. It's like 2 paragraphs. It's not very sophisticated. I don't know. I mean, let's try it. What do you want to change? What about this you want to change? Color? Yes.
Can you tell me that in code? Can I give a prompt for the editing?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. So I was thinking about, because this chat history carries all of the previous memory, right? The code, whatever I'm talking about here, right? Build whatever, right? So the question now becomes, am I able to just say something here that I want about this that I want to change, and then see if it works? My guess is probably not gonna work. Or at least not working well. Let's see. I want to change the background to be white and the font color to be I'm just gonna pick a random color, blue. How about that? My understanding is it's kind of like it won't memorize this whole thing. That's my guess. It probably won't memorize this whole thing. It's going to take what I said as a face value and then make out something else. Yeah.
Just
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a great call. That's kind of like going towards what I'm talking about, which is how do you manage the data and how to manage the history.
Isn't it
Yeah.
you mentioned that you saved the previous work you did?
Yeah.
So you can easily call whatever you did previous.
That's a great observation. Yes. Yes. That would be the solution. Yes. So you're talking about a solution right now. So what he said was you save it here, great, but the moment that I'm making new edits, it is that's not what I said, right? What did I say? I want to change the background to be white and the font color to be blue. It did the opposite, right? So yeah, and also probably this is kind of like a lucky case. If the website gets very complicated and the code gets very long, it's probably gonna miss out on a couple of components here and there. But let me finish what you said first, because what he said is actually kind of like the right way to think about it. Because if you look, if you save these things down here, and when user says they want to edit something, then the system need to have the ability to look up this file, right? Exactly, context. So the context here, it's the data, it's the scripts that previously been generated in previous versions of whatever the user is trying to develop, right? And that's currently not in the system. And we know it's not in the system because this design here, there's nothing in here that says, oh, wait a minute, let's go back to the previous data and load something back, right? There's nothing in here that says that, right? So that's a feature that this thing does not do. Here. Okay, I'm gonna click on some buttons just see if it's working. And then you can probably click save. And now you have two files and you can probably compare. Is this the previous one? Wait. Oh, this is the previous one. About menu. All right, let me check the other one. About menu. Okay, I think you just changed the color. Oh, so it's kind of like what I'm asking, but it changed the color wrong. Yes.
Change it from writing. The first page is, that is header page, right?
Is what?
Header page changed to blue, but the actual page changed to white. Can you just go to light reading again?
But I said background to be white though, right?
Yeah.
So that's not what I was asking.
Header background is blue, but actual background is white.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, you're saying this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good call. I actually didn't notice that. Yeah. Okay. So in your case, you're gonna actually give this 100, give this a pass. Okay. Fair enough. Okay, cool. Okay, so now here's the problem, right? Now that we identify the problem, right? There's all these things that can happen while user is developing this. Me as a user, my user experience is XYZ. We just identify what XYZ is. Now the problem is, what are you gonna do about it? Right? Anyone guess what are you gonna do about it? What's that? Memory, but how do I do that?
Itself, they need to add previously generated.
Yes, but I'm actually talking about I'm actually referring to something you're kind of jumping to solution. I'm talking about when user is using your app along the way, they might have problems. You only know the solution because we just surface those problems here in me as a single user. And the things that we're just talking about kind of only applies on me as a single user. So I'm talking about in general, what do you do to know not just one user, but everyone that's using your app? Like, what would that function be? Anyone? So you want to be able to trace the chat history, right? So let me we're coming up at the clock, but let me recap what's happening, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll continue from here. So what I want you guys to think about is this: we build something, users using it, right? When users using it, they have problems. The issue here is the problems only happen. You guys are recommending solutions only because I showed you what the problem is, right? But in the real world setting, you don't know what those problems are, because users are just random user online that just click on your chatbot all day long. You need to have some way of detecting it, right? So that's when tracing and observability comes in, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna tag every single one of these guys, and then we're gonna have another judge to act on our behalf as a proxy to tell us what the problem is. Make sense? Okay, so let's take a 15-minute break and then let's come back. So it's 7:03. We'll just come back at 7:20. Let's take a break. Yeah. Is on. So this is a website called Landfuse. Oh. And then anyone heard of this? Anyone heard of this? Okay, so they're pretty big in right now. The couple of guys in Europe, they started this company. I actually know their founder, so I'm gonna brag a little bit. Mark Landfuse, this guy. So I actually know him because in the industry we work with him. So he started a company called Landfuse. It's essentially a platform that's open source that traces in production what the LLM is doing. It's as simple as that. Now, that being said, the immediate question becomes, okay, why can't I just print the log in the terminal window and just save that, right? Anyone want to take a guess? Why can't I just do that? Like why do I have hold on, the data lake is a good point, but like why do I have to do this? Why can't I just go to terminal window and say log print? What's wrong with that?
You don't have.
Yes, you don't have history, but then there's something else wrong with it. What's wrong with log print versus this? Why do I need a platform to do this? What? Storing, yes, but storing what? Yes, so you guys are already hitting the point. So it's everything that goes in the LLM call, right? So before I explain you guys this, let me just take a step back. What's an LLM call? So API docs, reference. So all company have this, right? This is kind of like a standard now, right? You can't release a model without API docs, right? You got to tell people how to use it, right? So if you scroll down to introduction, let me just find an easier one. Let's say what's the easy one? Response? Like something like this. And then you can, let's say let's pick a common language, let's say Python, right? It's like everything in here, you kind of need to know all of that, right? If I just go to Python terminal window, say logs print, it doesn't give me, like for example, GPT 4.1, it doesn't give me that unless it's somewhere in here. Unless you have that, then you can probably print it. But if you know the innate log print doesn't really give me this. Like for example, this prompt, it's like not here. Anyone get that? So let me make sure I'm saying the right thing. Kind of one sec. Yeah, that's just the content. Yeah, the prompt is not there, right? This thing is not here, right? And then a whole list of arguments that goes in here may or may not be showing up here, right? That's the point. That's the problem. So if you do image, there's like a whole bunch of input here that may or may not be down here in the response output, right? So if you just do logs print, you're missing out a whole lot of information. That's not tracing. That just your function is running good or not. That doesn't mean you're tracing the context of the chat history, right? So that's a problem. And then not only is that the problem, but also it's like a whole infrastructure built around it, like database. You know, someone said data lake, and that's precisely the problem. So and here comes Landfuse, right? So it's very simple to use. There's API docs here. You can actually talk to it. There's also AI built behind the scene. But my favorite approach is Landfuse, Anthropic, integration. And then there's this first link here, that should be it. And then the implementation is very simple. So step number one, pip install a bunch of package, right? Step number one. And then step number two is get your key. This is also free, by the way. So you can literally just register with your email and then it will give you a key for free. And then there are a couple of different approaches. The first one is using the OpenTelemetry as the instrumentation. Me personally, I like to customize what exactly it is I'm tracing, right? Like if I have a user, then I want to trace user ID. If there's a session, then I want to trace like today afternoon, you know, you did this, right? Something like that. So me personally, like, and I do this, you know, same with myself here and same with in my work. My go-to recommendation is you don't do that, but you do the observability, like using this observe decorator in Python to put that in front of pretty much any function that you want. And then you can then customize these items within your app according to the user demographics. So that's my own preference, just simply because the flexibility in the design. And it's also very simple to use because there's not a whole lot of things here. This is just a generic Python function. It can be whatever function you want to use. Any function you want to use, just throw observe in front of it and you're all set. That's as simple as that. So like we're not talking about like in the old days, you design your app, and then you have another Python script or another like sets of repository to like guardrail against every single thing, and then kind of like scaffold around it, and then you can then talk about tracing. But right now, since everything in this app is Python native, then whatever it is you want to trace, all you gotta do is just throw an observe in front of it, and then you're all set. So that's kind of it. Make sense? So now that's the idea, right? Now let me show you guys how it works. So in order to show you guys how it works, I have this thing open here. I'm gonna put this side by side. So this is so it goes by something like this. If I click this, so you need to create an organization, which I already created one, and then like let's say this is a class I'm teaching, so that's the project. I'm going to click in here. So there are a couple of things that you see here, right? On the left-hand side, you see dashboard, tracing, sessions, users, things like that. There are two things that's very important. Well, three things very important. The first one that you have to know is just tracing. Whatever it is, whatever function that you put the observe decorator in front of it will be passed into the Landfuse platform. So that's like the Landfuse 101 is to do that. So it will show up here. And then there's prompt management. We can talk about that. Usually when you have different versions of prompt, people might talk about that. But in a scope of just website development, individually between the user and the chatbot, you may not need that. But there are some other users in the industry that you will definitely need that. The most important thing, the second important thing is this one, LLM as a judge. Anyone want to take a guess what that is? It's actually very straightforward. Just the name kind of suggests what it's doing. Anyone want to take a guess what that's doing? What's LM as a judge doing? Is what? Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's a judge that looks at the output and give you a score, right? And this is kind of like there's good things and bad things about it. So now that we know what this thing is doing, what's a good thing about it? Anyone take a guess? What's a good thing about this? I mean, I can show you. So I click on here. Let's say this is a hallucination. I click on this, and then I can see all these things. I can say, hey, I want to run on new traces, existing traces. I can sample, right? So let's say your trace has like 10,000 conversations, and you don't want to run 10,000. You want to run like a 500, right? That's what a sample is doing. And then there's a evaluation here, and obviously you can customize this. And then there's like input, output. These two things are what's being traced, and I can control what these things are in terms of the schema of what's being traced. So that's what these things are. So now you guys know what this is, right? The question is, what are the pros, what are the cons? Say again?
Minimize the complexity going through all.
Minimize the complexity. Yes, that's a pro, right? That's a pro. And then that's actually a great pro because you can then basically skip all that caveat. Like think about let me use this as an example. Like in this case, if users say this, and then your chatbot says that, and then along with that, your chatbot now says this. How are you going to grade that? How are you going to grade that with regex? Anyone know like regex means regular expression, right? It's a Python package. How are you going to grade that using regex? You can't. It's almost impossible, right? Unless you want to have like 1,000 if statement. So it's not going to work, right? So that's one thing. That's there. So that's one of the, so anything else, pros, cons. That's a pro, right? Any cons? Exactly. So con dependent LLM. Can you say more about it? Why it depends on LLM?
It depends on how good LLM is.
Yes, exactly. So let me show you something else, which is exactly what you said. If I go to the setting, wait, this one, sorry. And I go to LLM connection, I have to like add a connection and then put my LLM keys in there, right? And then if I click on this, it's gonna ask me, oh, which LLM adapter you want to choose, right? And then I have to like pick one, right? So here's the problem. What if I pick this and then I put my provider, my key there or whatever, and then I end up choosing a model that's like, let's say I choose a model, I want to be cheap, right? Let's say I choose a model that's Cloud Sonnet 3.5, that's like released last year. What's the problem with that? What?
It over is
What's the word?
over is
Over assumes it.
There is a generational difference between.
There's a generational difference, exactly, and that comes from the training data, right? So the problem with so pros, cons. So the problem with this is the performance of LLM as a judge is highly dependent on what LLM you're choosing. And if an LLM is wrong, is out of the date, or is released last year, well, then you got a problem, right? So this thing need to be updated pretty much as you go, like very frequently, as frequently as however often they release model. That's pretty much to that level of frequency we're talking about, right? So that's the problem. And I'm gonna show you guys an example of using an out of date model, how wrong that can be. Okay, so now you guys know what this is. Now we're gonna implement it, right? So the implementation is here. I just installed this thing here, and then I'm gonna run this code, and then hopefully it give me something. I'm gonna run this, and then I'm gonna go to the same steps. I'm gonna take the API key. I am going to put it here, and then I'm gonna say Tony start.com, and then whatever session ID is whatever session ID, that's fine. Build a hello world web app. The hello world flashes once a second and in different languages. So hopefully it's a website simple enough, and then hopefully there's some sort of JavaScript, and then it does something for us. So I'm gonna run that, and then I think this is tag, right? Let me just make sure this is tag. There we go. So this chunk of Python function that writes the HTML code, it's now tagged by the observe decorator. Make sense? And this observe decorator will take whatever output come from this function, send that to Landfuse. Any questions? That's really the key. And this function is completely customizable. You can do whatever you want. Make sense? I think the only thing I did that's a little bit interesting is when I update the trace, I just have these things in here to tell the Landfuse that okay, this is a user ID, this is a session ID, this is a whatever metadata, this is an email, something like that, so that I can then trace not just by overall the entire population that's on your chatbot, but I can break things down to different demographics and understand what the problem is. Right. So that's what that's about. Okay, so let's see if it's finished. Okay, so we have a code, and then this guy's name is Tony Stark. Okay, live preview. Great. So it's flashing different languages every second. Great. And then check history. Now I can probably go on here and then see if it's working. Hopefully it's working. Oh, come on. Why is it not working? This is annoying. Let me check something. I might have put in the wrong key. Let me go to, sorry about that. Let me check this one. It might be in another class. Oh, there we go. Okay. I clicked on the wrong class. Sorry. Okay. So this is what it looks like. Can I make it bigger? Yeah. Okay. So this is what the trace look like. I just did this October 10th, 7:35. So that makes sense. I just did this a while ago. And then this here says build a hello world web app, blah, blah, blah. This flashes once a second. Great, that makes sense. That's exactly what I said. And then here's the output. I don't know if this is traced correctly because the HTML code is not traced in here, right? So that need to be fixed. I actually, hold on one second. I think this here is not. It is here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this function is going to produce something, and then the code is here. Great, awesome. And then is a score? I believe score is here. This guy. Okay, it says the generation simply returns the success status and code length metric without making unsupported claim or fabrication information about the web app implementation, and the hallucination is 0. Make sense? So this way you can get an understanding of this particular trace at this particular time for this particular user, the hallucination is 0. So you can kind of take for granted that we don't have a problem so far. And then you can then go to dashboard, and then you can check out whatever you want. In this case, you can probably create a new dashboard, say test. And then you can add in the widget that then supports that score that you just collected. So in this case, I'm going to go with, what do I want to go with? Count, value, and then here I can break down by name, something like that. And then I can create a line chart or bar chart or whatever. Let's say bar chart. I can do past 30 days, something like that. I can save, and then you just see this incrementally changes across the time. Make sense? Any questions? Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. Okay, so now we can get to the, I mean, I hope this is fun, but now let's get to the real fun part. Now, can anyone guess how to go above and beyond from here to like a real website development that's kind of like building things on your behalf, but also thinking on your behalf, using this as a tool? All right, so let me rephrase that question. So now what if this whole thing becomes itself a tool, and then you have a chatbot that can use this as a tool? So how do I go from here to there? That's the question. And that's a $1 million question. You work for any company, you figure this out. You're gonna be very comfortable for a couple of years. Not forever, but for a couple of years. Everyone's building this, by the way. So you can draw from your experience reading news. Agent, yes. What about agents? Give tooling to agents. Yes, that's a good thing. What else? What's that? Okay, so I have a system diagram to kind of show you guys what if this now becomes a tool itself, right? So so we talk about what's happening here. Now we're abstracting this entire thing, let's say as one tool. And then we need to build a whole nother thing around this, right? So let me show you guys a diagram. And then, by the way, there are a million ways to do this. So for the time being, I'm not going to give you guys code, because once I give you guys a code, you guys are kind of like constrained to my code. But I'm going to show you guys a diagram, and then I kind of want you guys to think outside the box a little bit. to hopefully build your own. So let me show you this diagram. And then, you know, if we can cover this and everybody understand what's happening, then, you know, we can, like, I consider that as a success. Okay. So what I want to introduce you guys is this concept called deep search. Anyone, just take a guess without reading all of this. Let's just say, here, someone show you deep search. What does that mean? What does that mean here? Anyone? What's deep search? We know large language model, we know chatbot, we know it can write code for us. What's the point of deep search? What's that? No, say it. I think you got it. Say it.
Speed of it, the data, like if the Google has like 1 to 100, it will go real time, like.
Yes, so real-time search. Yeah, so that's part of it. What's the other part of it? Searching multiple sources. Yes. What else?
You know, the best,
Deep is what?
figuring out the best answers for the given prompt, you can say. Using the multiple sources.
Yes. That's a good point. So some sort of interpreter, like some sort of evaluator within. Yes, that's a very good point. What else? What's the first step? We kind of talked about this in the beginning of the class. What's the first step you need to do? A what? A search what? Query is a part of it, but like, what's the other word? You need a what? What do you need? Starts with a P. Not prompt. What else? Plan. You need a plan. Okay, so let's take this nice and easy. So deep search, user query, step number 1, user query. So let's start from here. User query, and then immediately there's one Python script. That take the user query and come up with a plan. And this Python script might need internet search. It might not. Hey, we don't know, right? It's based on the user query. So that's step number 1, planner. And you can kind of call that, I mean, in my head, it makes sense to be just a single Python script, but you can kind of call that Python function. You can call that whatever function, async function or whatever makes sense to you. But here, I say .py just means a Python script. It doesn't have to be a script. It's just a terminology. Okay, so planner agent is gonna take a look at the query and then come out with a plan. Okay, he's gonna take the plan and then give it to the second guy, right? The second guy here is called an orchestrator agent. The orchestrator agent, in my own simple brain, I'm just gonna think of that as a Python script, right? So like a standalone Python script, there's some Python function inside, right? So .py means that, right? So orchestrator agent now has a plan. Now what you need to do is he need to then have somebody else do something and get a response back, right? So that's his job. Okay, so now you're happy with all that. Now the question becomes, what are the specialists that you need to do, right? In the industry, obviously, depending on what your customers tell you to do, right? The customer tell you they want this, then obviously you do that, right? In this case, since I like finance, so I'm gonna come up with a couple of specialists that's related to finance. But that being said, it doesn't have to be finance, right? It's just based on my own personal interest, right? So here is the specialist that I personally like to use. I'm gonna walk through every single one, and then you know, all these have Python functions inside. All the functions are online. Getting the function is not the hard part. The hard part is the design of why the system need to look like this. That ability still falls on human. Everything else can be done by LLM. But the design of the system still falls on human, right? So first specialist, obviously search the internet, right? And in this case, I don't really care about which paper come from where. I just want the internet results. So I have something dynamic, right? Something recent, right? So I'm just going to use Anthropic Web Search API. So you can kind of think about it as a Python script, and inside Python script, there's API call. The API call is calling Anthropic Web Search tool. So that's the first specialist. A specialist is kind of like a cute name. You can call it agent, you can call it assistant, whatever works for you, that's fine. In this case, I'm just going to call specialist. So that's one specialist. And then financials. Now, this is interesting. Me personally, I think it's clunky to have to search for financial data on Yahoo Finance, get the data back, save in the database, and then process it, change the date time. And then next thing you know, you have another Python script to do all of that, and then give the results back to you. So what's an easier way to go about that, which is using the trading view widget. So let me show you what that means. Trading view widget. So if I go to financial widgets, and then they have all these widgets here. Since I like finance, I'm gonna go with fundamentals. Where's that? There's something here says fundamentals. Maybe I'm blind again. This one? Oh, here, fundamentals. So this widget give you that data out of the box, and the data is kind of like up to date. It's like automatically refreshed. And the reason that's the case is because there's a JavaScript here that gets the data for you. That's it, right? So I can take this snippet of HTML that's provided by another company, in this case, TradingView, and I can just insert that into the specialist. So that's what's happening here in this specialist. So it's a Python script with special prompt in there. The prompt says, grab that HTML. That's it. And then there's JSON generator. JSON generator is my own personal habit. You don't have to. I found sometimes that when you have a bunch of data flying around, and then when you're passing data into LLM, you kind of lose the schema, and JSON just helps you preserve the schema. And then I don't have a good source for this, but I think it saves more tokens just because you don't have like all these additional spaces or weird symbols around it because it's just a plain JSON file. So personally, I like to have a JSON generator as a specialist behind the scene. But you don't have to, but it's just it's a personal habit. Okay, now I'm gonna come back to this a little bit, but now we also have charts, right? Chart, very simple. Go to trading view. This is my own personal habit. Go to chart, and then you just grab this, right? And there's a JavaScript here that's library update the data, right? So, I'm good there. So I can grab that and put it in another specialist, right? You guys get the idea, right? I'm kind of like following the same strategy of putting together a lot of specialists in a very short amount of time, right? Like really, we're just talking about like copy paste from one website to another, right? That's all I'm doing. So that's that. And then in the end, there's a web builder. Web builder is kind of like, hey, your job is just to write HTML. That is like the only job you have to do, right? So now that you guys know what each specialist is doing, can you guess what the problem now becomes? What's the problem now? Now we can zoom out. What's the problem of designing specialists this way? This is why I don't want to give you guys a code because there's a problem here. If I give you guys a code, I'm passing the problem to you guys, and that's wrong. Anyone guess what's the problem here? There's a big problem. Let me give you a hint. Think about a use case. Think about a use case. Let's say someone want to analyze Tesla stock. And then think about another use case. Think like let's say someone want to drive from New York to California. They will be using different sets of specialists, right? So what happens now when user have drastically different use case? Like what could go wrong with the specialist if I design a specialist this way? Yes.
Basically, you have to define, in this case, there is a specialist agent for the financial. Likewise, you have to design something for, for the navigation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so over here, it's not mentioned.
Correct. Yes, that's one problem. It's the specialists kind of have to you have to define what that is, and then it had to be generated if you have a new use case that doesn't cover. Exactly. So that's one problem. What's another problem here? What's another problem? So there's one thing I have not talked about, which is the base specialist. So kind of look at this a little bit and think about what's happening here. Like, why do I need a base specialist? I haven't explained that, and I did that on purpose. Why do we even need a base specialist? Why can't just this point here and then finish with that? Why this point here finish with that? This point here, this point here. Why do I need this thing here?
You want to sync individual, you want to sync individual generation.
So sync is a good word, but what's another word with? Yes, but how? It does need to decide what to do, but how? Yes. Yes. It's the word inherit, right? What does inherit mean? Inherit means after someone does something, I then can take what you've done and then keep doing what I need to do next, right? So now here's the problem. What if this inherit need to happen 50 times? What if the planner comes back and then the plan requires not just one go, but the planner comes back and the plan becomes this and then go back up. Like how is it going to solve that problem? Right? The answer is it doesn't. This system doesn't solve that problem. That's the answer. Right? This system solves one problem and one problem only. You've predefined a bunch of specialists, right? So these guys here, these Python scripts are predefined. Like some engineer open up computer and write those things out, right? Predefined. Like we're not talking about generating code on the spot and run the code, right? That would be a really, really, really unique specialist. But these are predefined, and then after it's predefined, it goes down and then come back up once. That's it. Right. So someone earlier said evaluator. That's a great point. That's when the evaluator comes in. To make this system really robust, from the planner all the way to here, when it hits all these boxes and come back up, that needs to be a loop. It can't just be go there, you do something, give the result back, and I'm done. It can't just be that, right? You need to say, hey, do this, and a specialist does something, report the results back, and then there's another evaluator, look at the result and say, yeah, it's good to go. Then you're good to go. If the evaluator says, no, you're missing something, well, then you got to redo the thing, right? So in reality, this arrow, it's kind of like a multi-turn arrow, if that makes sense, right? That's why Cloud Code is able to charge you a lot of money in a very short amount of time, because they're doing this arrow. Like sometimes I've seen this arrow happen maybe probably like 50 times in one API call. Like from a user perspective, it's one API call, but this arrow can probably happen 50 times, like within that API call without me knowing. And then once I finish Cloud Code, I look at my cost, it's like, oh yeah, $50. And I'm like, well, I only talked to it for like a minute. How has it become $50? Well, it's because this arrow is multi-turn. Any questions? Okay, so a few minutes left. I'm gonna show you guys what this thing look like. Oh, sorry, not that one. You guys can all log on this and play around with this if you want to. You just register account here. I deploy this myself and just see if I can pull this off. This last page, deep search, is doing exactly what this graph is doing, like exactly like one map, right? And then let me show you something. I hope this works. Okay, so I should probably change that. It doesn't have to be a website. It can be pretty much anything. I'm gonna say something simple, right? Analyze. What stock do you guys want? What stock do you guys like? Anything? Don't say Tesla. Say okay, Tesla. Analyze Tesla stock. Okay, so it's gonna come with a plan, right? Okay, stocks. What's the plan to do stocks? Okay, number one, I need charts. Specialist number one is stock chart. What is the next step? Next step is task 2 is financials. Okay, PE ratio, whatever, dashboard layout, whatever. That's the second task. Once it's complete, now I can generate the web app. And then it's gonna give me this code, and then it's gonna look like this. And then you can play around with this. Right? And then there's financials here. Make sense? It's a very simple design. And then I can trace it with Landfuse. Wait, hold on. I'll just click on here. It's tracing. Where does it go? It might just take a while because it's supposed to show up here. I think I did that before. I think I did that earlier today. You just have to wait a little bit. But anyhow, let me go back to where is it? Okay. Yeah, let me come up. Let me try a different example. While it's loading the Landfuse, let me try a different example. Let's say I live in New York and I want to move to whatever, California. I'm gonna make it a little bit more complicated. Let's say in my house, there are 2 adults and 2 children. What do I do? Right, let's say that's the case. If you're gonna do this by yourself without any AI, what you're gonna do is you're probably gonna look up whatever, like plane ticket or something like that, right? Or if you're gonna drive, then you're gonna use Google Map or something. So in this case, I don't think I have Google Map specialist. So that's obviously not gonna happen. I don't think I have like plane ticket specialist, so that's not gonna happen. So let's see within the constraint, let's see what it does. Here, this web search is going to probably be a little complicated because it's going to kind of like, it's searching something really, really weird, right? Like if you Google search this, it's probably not going to give you anything that makes too much sense, right? And then my guess of this, like previous time I run this, I think it'll probably take a minute just because the amount of information from internet search that I can get. And then after that, it'll probably come up with a plan. After that, it'll probably build a website. And then the website hopefully will have like steps of things for me to look at if I want to make that move. So let's give a minute to see what happens. And then while we're waiting, let me go back to Landfuse, see if it's loading correctly. It's still not showing up. Okay. Any questions while it's loading? Any questions? Let me give you a question of the system. Let's say you want to build a specialist that writes code on the spot, and then does some thinking for you, how would you go about do that? What's that? Well, the planning agent is kind of here, right? So what if I want a specialist that writes a code and executes the code? Go to what? Kind of. So earlier I said some of these specialists have external sources, right? Whatever market data, whatever financial data, stock chart, or whatever, right? So if you need to have a specialist that writes the code and executes the code, then you need to have another external resource somewhere down here that provides a CPU for you, right? You can't execute code without CPU, without a computer, right? So there need to be some sort of instance down here to support that compute. Make sense? Whatever it is, a CPU, GPU, but you need to have something, right? So that need to happen. So I wanna mention that because I'm pretty sure someone's gonna do this. Last semester, I think someone did this. Like they basically built, because I taught this last semester as well, a similar concept. But the diagram it's obviously changing, across the time. But last semester, there's someone built a specialist that writes the code and executes it. And then when they execute it, they need a they need a CPU here. And then I wouldn't say a mistake, but one thing that really hurt their presentation in the end of semester is they load the language model that's like 13 billion parameters, but then they end up choosing a resource that's CPU. So when he's calling that chatbot, it just crashed the app. So that's a little caveat there. But overall, I mean, he did fine. Obviously, he's able to pull this together, but he did fine. So that's one idea, right? You go this way, right? You either go like you either make this wider or you make this deeper. Does that make sense? So that's one way to think about it visually. If there's a problem, how do you improve the system? Well, that's how you improve system, right? You make this wider, meaning you have more specialists to do more things, right? Google Map, SERP API, Google Scholar, right? You know, if you want to build some study tools, read papers for you, well, you need Google Scholar API, right? So that's make this wider. And then make this deeper, you can also make this deeper, right? Like what if resources depends on other resource, right? You know, things like that. And then one last thing is just the nature of how dynamic this can be. Dynamic means instead of this arrow going once up and down, it goes in multi-turns. And then multi-turns, you can kind of think about each of this to be itself a for loop in Python. And then actually, let me take that back. A while loop in Python. And then how do you stop the while loop? What's the stopping rule? It's if the evaluator says you're good to go. Then that's how you stop the turn. Otherwise, the turn continues. So any questions? That's how you improve the system. I want to wrap this up. Let me see if this is working. Okay, we're almost getting there. Hold on one second. Fourth task? Task 4. Oh, did web search a couple times. That's interesting. I actually didn't know it's gonna do this. Search comprehensive moving checklist and timeline for family relocation. That's one internet search. Search for cost of living comparison between New York and California, including houses, taxes, utilities, education costs. That's a second API call. Search for best family-friendly cities and school districts in California. Okay, that's a third API call. And then fourth, search interstate moving companies with good reviews and approximate costs for New York and California moves. That's a fourth API call. Fifth one, it's okay, finally, create a simple HTML script with moving checklist, timeline, cost comparison, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I actually did not know it's going to do this, but it's actually very detailed to a way that I'm already starting to get scared because I don't know how long it's gonna last. But you guys get the idea, right? Now it's a matter of basically making this smarter, right? That's I'm not saying everyone should do this as their final project. I'm saying this is one idea for final project that if you want to do, you can do that. And And even if you don't do this, it opens up a whole nother channel of like, where's AGI gonna go from here, right? AGI is not gonna be one model. That's my belief. Artificial general intelligence is probably going to be a very, 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 very smart system. It's unlikely going to be just one magical model that like reads everything and then spits out whatever it is you want. Because the fine tuning of that, based on today's data center and how much supply we have, it's very difficult to achieve that. Even though theoretically you might be able to show people, okay, here's a new network model, here's all data that you have. If you just shove it in here, you probably get something that's really smart. Usually that's very difficult to achieve in today's day and age. What you likely achieve is some really smart system that really knows how to plan things and has a really smart evaluator to say what's right, what's wrong. And then you have specialists that's uniquely designed to solve every single task. Anyhow, so let's take a look at the results. Moving from NYC to California, obviously this is a website, checklist. Okay, 8 weeks before I have to do this, 4 weeks before I have to do this, 2 weeks before I have to do this. Can I check this? Oh, okay, great, there's a checklist. Moving timeline, that's probably this, right? Okay, 8 week, 6 week, 4 week, and then go. Cost comparison, obviously there's a bug there, right? So data is not showing up. Recommended city, I think the rest is just probably get blocked.
Yeah.
Token limit, thank you, yes. Well, so at least I'm smart enough to design the blocker, otherwise I'm gonna pay a lot for this thing. Is there more to this? I think somewhere down here, there might be something here that, yeah, I think I probably blocked the token limit. Let me see, let me check the code. I'm pretty sure I have something like that blocks token limit. Yeah, I think that just, I'm pretty sure I blocked the token limit because I think every specialist, I think I have like a 4,000 max token. If it hits that token, then that's how much it can generate. Because otherwise I don't wanna, because I'm single-handedly paying for this myself, right? So that's kind of like the idea. But yeah, but at least it got us this far, right? That's kind of like the idea. Okay, any questions? Good.
But there was one website that wasn't done. You said you joined.
Oh, yes. Let me check the other website. That's a good point. Is this done or no? Oh, it says upgrade. That's annoying. But at least, does it have like these links? Are these all set? I mean, this is a 5 out of 7. So I'm assuming some links are up, some links are not. Coach portal. Add new player. Okay. I mean, at least give us something, right? And I'm assuming there's database here. Okay, so that's a database problem. Let's go back. Go back to homepage. Recruiter portal. Okay. Marcus Johnson, DeAndre Williams, Tyler, field profile. Great. I mean, most of the stuff is here. Highlights. Oh, you can probably upload videos. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I did not even think of that. You can add to a watch list if you want. That's probably a database problem. This is going to trigger a database. I mean, pretty good. I mean, we're not there yet because they're asking me to pay for this, but you, you guys get the idea, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay. So yeah, class is dismissed. I'll finish up recording and upload to internet so everyone can rewatch this. But yeah, point being, I just want to give you guys all the tools and help you guys think outside the box a little bit. And if you want a source code, I'll give you a source code. But ideally, you can kind of go from just this diagram from scratch. Obviously, you don't have a code from scratch because you can ask ChatGPT, ask Anthropic Cloud to code for you. But the idea is still far from human. And then that's kind of like what I want you guys to focus on is how do you create that unique system that kind of solves as many problems as you can. Make sense? Great. Okay, I'll see you guys next Friday.